Hey there, folks. My apologies. I got my times messed up. For some reason, I thought I was doing this at another time. It was weird. Thanks for reminding me, Adam. So here I am, ready to get involved in another roll. Let me get my glasses on and get things straightened out here. All right, here's the roll. I can get it in front of the camera. Ooh, there it is. Oops, let's do it this way. Cincinnati branch. Let me find my camera again. There it is. Cincinnati branch, Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland. 50 cents. And our ends are nice and tight. Everything seems to be just fine with this roll. I'm going to use my little tool to get it open. Now, while I scoot these other coins out of the way. So, yeah, I went through a couple of the rolls of 1961D that were a part of this deal that I was talking about, where I ended up with 17 rolls of coins. And in those 17 rolls of coins, I had like 12 rolls that were showing RPMs right on the end of the roll. But these rolls are the ones that are enclosed in that plastic that shrinks down around the tube. And so, hang on, let me get my chat out here. Say good afternoon, everybody. My attention to detail today is waning. I've been working on packages all day and didn't realize it was getting as late as it was. Plus, I thought my first broadcast was at 6 p.m., not 4 p.m. So I apologize for being late again. Or again, I apologize for being late. I don't remember being late any other time. This is interesting. This paper is sticky backed. I don't remember ever seeing this before from a Fed Reserve Bank. Okay, there we go. That's all the coins. Get them all flipped here so that they're ready to view. And we will go ahead and get started. Our first... How about that? Our first coin now will go to Mike Byers. Mike Birchman, I'm sorry. Not Mike Byers. I'm looking at these coins as they come out. This one's actually a pretty nice looking coin. Let me zoom out on it some so we can actually see it. There we go. Let me get my lighting straightened out here. Seems like this week I've been nothing but fumbling and bumbling when it comes to these shows. I get my head back on straight. All right. Well, first of all, the first thing I notice here is we've got die cracks on the 9 and the 5. That shows me that this is probably a later die state die to begin with, because we've got die cracks in, well, somewhat expected places at this point. And we look around the word trust, and we see that we've already got some die cracks and little other feathering extending from the lettering going toward the rim. So this is quite common for a 1955 Philadelphia. A lot of these dies were used well beyond their prime. So we got little die cracks, just little tiny die cracks on all the letters of Liberty except the LI. So it's kind of one of those things. There's a few things we look for on 1955. There is at least one double die reverse that I know of on the business strike coins, which these are. Oh, look at that. You got a huge issue here. Let's see what that is. There's something dark around a die crack or a die chip. I don't know what that stuff is. A little xylene, never hurt anybody. I'll try to get that off of there real quick. But the dies were used well beyond their meaningful life in 1955 at Philadelphia, and I'm not really sure why. No one's ever been able to answer to me exactly why it was done. Just the fact that it was done, everybody seems to know. Get some of this other stuff out of the way so it's easier for me to do my job. Alright. That all stacked up where it goes. Okay. Now, on to coin number 2. Coin number 2 for Jim Fletcher. Jim Fletcher. Is Jim Fletcher in the house? How do you get xylene? Well, xylene is a chemical. It's a very poisonous and very flammable chemical. And you can get it from a website, sciencecompany.com. Sciencecompany.com. Xylene is spelled Xylenes. That's xylene. And there's the little website that I'm telling you about right there on the bottom of the bottle. Sciencecompany.com. And so the warning label on this thing is quite extensive. It has been found to be carcinogenic and corrosive and all kinds of other things. So be very careful when you're using it. This is not a chemical you want to try at home unless you know what you're doing or at least have some experience at it. So let's see. Second coin in the roll. Still got those die cracks on the 9.5, and it looks like we have a small crack actually starting to line up below the 9 and the 5 in the date. I'm going to start looking for a couple of markers to see if we can piece together some markers to use. I think this is the same die as the last. We'll find out real quick when we flip it over. And we take a look over here, and we do have the same die chip as before. Same die chip as before tells us we have the same die again. Very well struck coins. Just struck with very late die state dies. You guys have got to be really careful with that xylene when you get it. And I don't know anything about scientific experiments, experimentation, its carcinogenic properties. All I'm telling you is that I use it to take crap off of BU coins because it works on red coins. And that's all I can tell you about it. That's all I know. This one's a different die altogether. This is going to be coin number 3 in the roll for CVS. It's got a big die crack right there on the head. And no double die. If you guys see that little bit of doubling as it appears on the top of the BE of Liberty, that's normal for all 1955 Lincoln cents. That is a master die doubling. It's a case of master die doubling that shows up on that BE of Liberty. I look up here and I don't see anything else that looks like hub doubling to me. There's a die crack off the T of Trust. Take a look at the reverse. See if there's anything on the reverse for us to talk about. We may actually find some very, very heavily cracked dies. Look at all these little tiny chiplets and cracklets and stuff. We got one on the T of Cent. We got some of that flaking on the die about to fall apart. You get a huge die crack running off the U of pluribus and off the L of pluribus. Actually goes around to the side of the O down onto the C of cent. And then we have, I don't think that's it. That's not another crack. We've got a large die chip. Large number of die chips all over the wheat on the left side. We've got a coin here that belongs to a die that was just about to the end of its life, but not quite, because they successfully made this coin for CVS. He's going to get that one. Now here's number 4. Number 4 is Adam Chambers. Let's see what Adam Chambers gets out of here. That appears to be rather normal from that view. I think maybe we might have a coin that came from the same die as our last one. Let's go ahead and look at In God We Trust here real quick and see that there's nothing there for us. It is the same die. The die scratch going northeast off the top of the R in Liberty. I remember seeing that on the last coin we took out of the roll. So this one should have all those same long die cracks. Yeah, it does. So this is another coin from the same die. We've had 4 coins now. This is our 4th coin for Adam Chambers. And this particular coin is the same die as coin number 3 in the roll. And then 1 and 2 were of a different similar die. So now we've got 4 coins down, only 2 different dies so far. And now Mike Birchman comes back up. And let's see what we can do for Mike Birchman here. Well, it appears to be the same die again. I'm using these die scratches coming out of the mouth and chin area as my guide. And it does appear that we're going to end up with the same die a 3rd time. There's that die crack or die scratch coming up off the R. Well, Time Traveler's Coin Exchange has a good theory, but there's a problem with the theory. If the dies with a date on them were already worn, what did they use the dies on to make them worn before they issued coins? So it tends to be a problem if you have something that's late die state already. You got something that's late die state already, then it had to have done something, had to have been used on something prior to being hung to make coins. All right. 62 proof double dies. Well, the grading companies don't do attribution. They will do it if they are cherry picker listed, or if, like for instance, NX will do it. They will verify die numbers. I'm not sure that they will actually find die numbers for you. One of the problems that you have to realize with 1962 proofs is that hub doubling on the obverse of 1962, actually hub doubling on both sides of the 1962 proof, is relatively common by type. So there's probably, I don't know, there's a little over 1 million coins. So there's probably 150, 200 dies used. And I would suffice to say that probably 2/3 of those have hub doubling of some sort. So what I do, I pulled out Jim Fletcher, and I don't have a coin for him. So here is a coin for him. Let's see what we got going on here. Okay, this is a different die, it appears. Nothing on the eye. Was the master die damaged for 1955? I kind of doubt it. There are 1955 coins that are early die state. And in fact, you have to remember that the dies were created, the actual dies were created all together. So one shop created all the dies for 1955, so you've got the PD and S mint dies all together. And then they start putting mint marks in the ones for Denver and San Francisco. Given that they put mint marks in later for the ones in Denver and San Francisco, you would expect that all 3 of them would have dies that were approximately the same in treatment if they struck a regular and normal number of coins. The problem that we run into, though, is that you rarely see this kind of die age out of San Francisco and Denver minted cents from 1955. You generally only see it in Philadelphia. In addition to that, you also have The case where there's a very nice double die, the Master King of double dies, is on a 1955 cent. And those come in early to mid die state. It's just that it seems that they probably tried to use as few dies as possible. For exactly what reason, I do not know. But they were used well beyond their normal life. 1953, 1954, 1946, 1929, they're all very similar in that a lot of their dies were used well beyond the typical lifetime for coining dies. 1922 in Denver, they had a specific problem with that, in that there's a different set of die cracks. This one goes from the E of cent all the way up through and around the O to the L of pluribus. The 1922 issue was that they used the dies so much the mint marks came off the dies. And so you end up minting coins that did not have mint marks. That tends to be an issue, because all of them were supposed to have mint marks. And Philadelphia didn't strike any. So you got the only year that Philadelphia did not strike any Lincoln cents. And it's also a year where they messed up enough to actually strike Denver minted coins that didn't end up with mint marks. Right, there's your big issue with that. Big misunderstanding over the years. At first they thought, well, yeah, maybe some Philadelphia mint coins snuck out. And then later it was realized that these are actually Denver minted dies at varying levels of can I see the mint mark or can I not. Made a difference in the overall appeal and value of the coins that resulted. The only die that probably never actually had a mint mark, because it was probably never punched into the die, is that strong reverse, die number 2. It's a very worn obverse with a very new reverse, so it looked like a very strong looking coin. Turns out those were the ones that ended up taking the lion's share of the value. Here's the first one of those. I figured we'd see a few of them in there. There's a poor man's double for 1955. I'll explain it when I run into another coin. I'll finish my sentence here first. That I'll finish looking at this here. Okay. That the misnomer, once they discovered that the 1922 Ds were all struck in Denver, or actually not discovered, that was a well-known fact. But once they discovered that the ones without mint marks were actually struck in Denver, then it becomes a simple issue of a filled mint mark or a worn-off mint mark on a die. And, folks, that happens pretty frequently. I've had, I don't know if I still have it, but I had a, I believe it was a 1923S. I think it was a 1923S Lincoln that had just a whisper of a mint mark. I mean, you could barely tell there was a mint mark there. I've also seen them from the teens, a few of them, like a 1918 D I remember seeing that had just a hint of a mint mark. And these were late die state coins. They were struck very late in the die's life, and the die had basically, the mint mark had just worn off of it. But you can't get anything extra for those. I mean, they don't have any extra value. So why does the 1922 have the value? Well, 1922 has the value simply because there were no 1922 cents struck in Philadelphia. And so to have the appearance of a coin that was struck in Philadelphia on a genuine mint struck coin, it kind of became a big deal. Hello, Joe. Oh, we're not really getting anything out of this roll so far. 55 is a very hit and miss issue. You get into a 55 roll and you can find gold, but at the same time, gold is rare. as it is in these rolls, finding the really nice ones it's going to be quite rare. This is going to be one of our ones with all of the die cracks and fuzz on the back. Flip it over and take a look at it, as well as look for anything else that might be worth talking about on the reverse here. Yep, definitely. It's going to be the one with all the die cracks and stuff. There we go. A die crack from the U intersecting with one from the L, goes around the edge of the O all the way down to the C. And then we've got a huge die chip over here in the wheat, along with other die chips. A number of die chips. So what's with that 1955 with the shadow doubling around the outside edge of the 5? Well, that's actually relatively common. I expect to run into a few of them today. Here's one. It's slight. It's not as strong as I've seen it on others. But what that is that's die wear. See all this fuzz down here at the bottom of the jacket? That's actually molecules of the little spots of the steel die flaking away and chipping off of the die, resulting in little spikes on the coin. It does. It looks like dragon scales. And you get that appearance off the edge of the 5 because it's really close to the rim. And that's the part that wears out first. And if you look up here, you'll see that you've got the same stuff going on all the way up into and through the word trust. And it should be pretty much all the way around the outer edge of the design, whereas closer to the center of the design, you're not going to see nearly as much of it. So let's look at the center of the design, and there's just not much of it there. I mean, it looks more like a normal coin in the central area. There's some of it on the back of the head. But it's more extreme on the outside edge, and the reason it's more extreme on the outside edge of the design is because, well, there's actually more movement of the molecules of steel toward the outside edge, because it's kind of like raindrops on a windshield as you're going down the highway at 70 miles an hour. You look up your windshield, and you can see little tiny droplets of rain in the very center of your windshield. And then as you travel, they move outward toward the outside edge, and they pick up more and more water as they go toward the outside edge. They get bigger and they move faster. Well, that's kind of what's happening here. You've got molecules of steel sticking up against molecules of steel, creating trenches and moving further and faster, and then it just starts to crumble after it's been used for way too long. And that's the case with some of these dies, that they've just been used way too long. And there's part of your result is die cracks, die chips, and that funky, ugly looking type of die wear. We ran into a 1971 roll like this at one point last year. I don't see any doubling on this, so we're going to move on. But that's what all of these are. They are very common on 1955. They are somewhat common on 1953 and 1954 as well. But I will draw your attention to the fact that they are far more common on Philadelphia mint than they are on the Denver and San Francisco mint. There's another one right there. And this is a different die because it has that heavy die scratch below the 9. Didn't see that on the last coin. There's a big die crack running across the head there. A little chip right there on the forehead. And this can actually mask out slightly the double die obverse number 2 that we like to look for. It kind of makes these coins sort of look like a mushy double die. You just have to get past that. You have to figure out, what am I going to look for the actual double die? Well, the actual double die, here, I mean, if you guys got time for a lesson, I'll give you a lesson. This has got a lot of die issues. Good afternoon, Paul. Well, a lot of interesting finds, but nothing in the world of die varieties. We're finding a lot of very oddly worn and very heavily worn dies. So let me show you something with regard to get to my website, and then I'll move it over here so you guys can see it. Right there looks good. So I'm going to go on a search for 1955. And Philadelphia double die obverses. Now this is 1955 double die obverse number 2. And if you look at it in here, let me move this over a little bit so you can see the pictures better. You can see, I mean, pretty heavy doubling shows throughout most of the design. And you can see that's not die wear. That doesn't even, there's notching right here. See the notching? There's notching right up here. You're not even going to see that type of notching with die wear. That's all hub doubling right there. Okay. Now, if you look carefully, you'll see that the size of the leg of the R is extended way out. You look at that, and then you look at the fact that the W has a lot of stuff coming off the top of it. Let's take a look at the later die state. Here it is in later die state. It's a little more difficult to see. Also, this coin is worn. But you can see that you've got a line up here on the top of the W. You've got a lot of fuzz coming off of these letters, but it doesn't quite look the same as die wear because you've got that separation. You can see that on these coins all the way up into late die state. And so when you look at some of the coins that we're looking at, you can tell that they're not the same kind of, they're not doubled at all. Here's one for Bill Crusson. Let's take a look at this one real quick. I'll go up to, there we go. Okay, so you can see how fat and ugly these things look, but you can also see that there's no separation. There's no actual doubling. It's all just fatter. It's all mushed out because, well, the design is basically falling apart. And you've got no hair, no extra stuff coming up off the top of the W. So definitely not a double die. Even though it looks a little thick, it's not a double die. Now, when you look at the R of trust on the double die, sorry about that. When you look at the R on the coin here, you can see that there looks like to be a little bit of separation, a little extra thickness on the R. But if you're actually looking at the double die, it'll be a very sharp separation. Plus, you'll see extra separation up above the T. And so it's very difficult to actually tell the difference between what you are looking at and what you what you're looking at with a non-double die and then with a double die. It's a little difficult to tell the difference when you've got a double die that you're looking for that takes on some of the appearance of a very worn die. Now, you give it a little bit, you'll understand, and you will be able to pick the double die out. The double dies are actually quite valuable. They go for really good money. If you get one of the DDO number 2 in BU condition, I would figure that they could go for better than $100, possibly even better than $200 on eBay or other online auction websites. There's one that's really nice and strong for you. This one's got some grease issues on the coin. Looks like Larry got in. Yeah, when you get those in higher grade, man, those things are really, really valuable because a lot of the ones people find are relatively low grade. I mean, we're talking about XF or lower. But when you talk about die state on those, getting them in earlier die state is also very difficult. So if you get them in a really sharp die state in red BU condition, you're talking about a rarity. You're talking about something that's worth really good money. All right, that was Robert Adams, and now for Paul Hempton. We do have an original roll here, though. I mean, these coins are all relative to one another. You see, this one's from the exact same die as the previous coin, and this one does not have the fingerprint on the obverse. You recognize that trio, well, what is it, 4 die cracks running right across the forehead, and then another one up in the hair. So you've got half a dozen die cracks. There's a big die dot right up above the Y behind the hair. That's going to be a really good marker to use to identify this die again. This huge die crack on the VDB. We've seen that a few times now. So these are original coins. These are original bank wrapped coins. And this is what they look like. You're going to get good or you're going to get not so good. But you're going to pay the same price either way. So 1955 is definitely a big crapshoot. But I tell you what, if your crapshoot works out in your favor, there's a lot of money in those rolls. A lot. I mean, with a roll like this exhibiting DDO number 2, you're probably going to get between 6 and 10 of those in the roll at a couple $100 a piece. Yeah. You're talking about a couple $1,000 in the roll. And then there's some possibility that you could get DDO number 1. You get DDO number 1. Well, everybody knows those things go for in a red BU condition. You're talking, wow, couple $1,000 a coin. Couple $1,000 a coin. You're talking about probably between 6 and 10 of them in the roll. Even if you only got 5 of them in the roll, you're still talking about a $10,000 roll. So you can run into the jackpot for sure with these. And that's why I keep doing them. I keep looking because, well, it's just like the lottery. You're never going to win if you don't play. Oop, there's a little piece of paper wax up there on the top of that one. I'll blow that off before we put that into a flip. NGC does only the major varieties. They won't do the more minor varieties. There is a list on NGC of the varieties that they will do. I don't think any of them are the 55 proofs. Oh, wait a minute. We're talking about 62 proof, I think. No, I don't think NGC will attribute any of the 62 proofs. I know, like, Annex will put it on the holder, but I think you have to turn it in with a die number. I don't think they're going to look up the die number for you. You're going to have to identify it first. And then if they agree with your identification, then you will get a number in most cases. You basically have to tell them what you think it is and request how you want the die number on there, and then they'll do it with their fee for attributing varieties, which basically is just attaching a different coin number to it so it prints differently. Okay, so for an extra charge, they will research the die for you. That's what Adam tells us. God, I've got to get this phone to shut up. Hang on just a second. I forgot to shut it down before I came in here. There we go. There. Nobody's going to call me. Nobody's going to message me. Nobody's going to text me while I'm in here. Finally got that taken care of. All right. Got nothing going on this coin either, so I'm going to go ahead and drop it to the pile. Next up is Rick. Now, we've already been through the process of learning, well, what are we looking at and why are we seeing what we're seeing? We can speed up just a little bit and get through a few more coins a little bit faster. Well, the other thing, Time Traveler's Coin Exchange, is that the values on coppercoins.com are an estimate of value. One of the things that you will find out is if you have the more minor 1962 double dies, especially the 1962 proof double dies, because they are so frequently available by type. See, a lot of people don't care to collect all the different die varieties. They don't care to get all the different numbers. So if you have 15 different dies that all look about the same, only the aficionado is really going to care that there's still 15 different dies and they're going to try to get all of them. Most of your collectors will get one as an example and be done. And it doesn't have to have a specific die number on it or anything like that, but they're not going to pay you a whole lot extra for it because it doesn't have that specific die number on it. Well, if you do get the specific die numbers on them, there's so many coins available out there, it's really kind of a white elephant. And you can really hurt yourself trying to pay a lot of money to have 1962 proof Lincoln cents that are really minor die varieties identified, because you'll end up out more in your cost of doing it than you are in its value. Most collectors of die varieties don't care if the grade of the coin is really high or not. So they'll take a 66, the same as they would take a 68. Because the 68 is going to cost them and the 66 won't. So that's where we run into issues, is when you've got minor die varieties. Most minor die variety collectors prefer raw coins that are not certified, and they also prefer to find their own. And if they don't find their own, they don't want to spend a whole lot of money to get them. So your best bet in dealing with the grading companies and die varieties is to find something that is quite nice as a die variety. Find them in an original roll where you've got 4 or 5 coins, or more, hopefully, and turn them in as a group and have them done as a group. Keep one and trade or sell the rest to recoup your cost. But 1962 proof is probably not the way to go for that. Unless you found some of the real heavy hitters. There's some of the real heavy hitters that are like in the authoritative reference on Lincoln Cents by John Wexler from 1996, I believe it is. There are some of the double dies listed in there that are some of the better ones in the proofs of the early memorials. Man, this die is totally chewed up. I'm talking about massive chewed up there. Let's take a look at the reverse. This is what you get when you see very late die state. That's what this is. I did get a 1962 proof roll to do a reveal just so we could take a look through it and I could show you what the die varieties are in there. I'm not even sure that I'm going to go through the process of trying to identify every one of them, because it could take weeks. I don't want to be held back weeks by one roll. But it'll be an inexpensive lesson. Probably sell the coins at $1 a piece. $1, maybe $2 a piece. I think I may need to do them at $2 a piece. But a number of people we'll end up with a double die out of that roll. Alright, number 25 goes to Wanda. We're now halfway through the roll. And it doesn't appear as though we're actually going to come up with any double dies in here. One of the foil wrapped rolls. And I've got some of the foil wrapped rolls that I did not sell because they had mint marks, and that was kind of my plan to like do a 1960D roll that could have all toned coins in it because it's wrapped in paper and wrapped in foil. I thought about that idea. I have something that's a little more important right now, or actually a little more interesting. These 1961 rolls that I've been telling you about, I got 17 of them. And I opened up 2 of the rolls. Here's my story. It was a tubed roll, Time Traveler's Coin Exchange. So here's my story on the 1961 Ds. I got 17 of these rolls. All of them are in the locked tubes, the ones that the coins don't like to come out of. And hey there, Wanda. I opened 2 of the rolls and went through them. Out of those 2 rolls, 38 coins were not RPMs out of 2 rolls. That's out of 100. So I had 61 coins, 62 coins were RPMs out of 2 rolls. Not much, Wanda. I just pulled your coin. That one was for Jim Fletcher, but the one before it was yours. I'm not finding much of anything in this roll. I mean, I'm finding a lot of interesting things. Something to go back and watch the rest of the show for, because there is some interesting stuff about dieware and things like that in it. But I'm finding a bunch of worn die coins, old dies, striking coins, dies with all sorts of cracks and chips and other things on them. This is an original roll of 1955 Lincoln cents, which it shouldn't be surprising, but sometimes it is. Can tell it's original because all the dies are the same. Going all the way through the roll. We just got lots of die chips. Yeah, but these 1961 D rolls, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up 2 of these rolls and not look at the coins, but just get them out of the tube, because the process of getting them out of the tube can take 10 minutes. So I will work through the process of getting the coins out of the tubes, and then I will do a reveal on the 2 tubes worth of coins. And here after the end of this show, when I get finished with these, I'll drag out some of the coins that I found in those tubes. They should be the same thing, because a lot of the ones that have enders that are RPMs are the same RPMs that I found in the 2 rolls I went through. So that tells me that they all came from the same bag, and that your chance of finding RPMs in them are going to be just as typical, I would say, just as likely. Yes, Paul, everything that you're seeing on these coins that isn't normal is basically die chips, which comes as a form of damage from extreme use of a die or overuse of a die to the point that it starts to flake and fall apart. And that is exactly what's going on here with these. These dies are basically chipping apart, falling apart. Yeah, but there's a lot of die chips on here. You can see just about, well, pretty much all of the detail that you see that looks like it's just rough edges, pretty much all of that is die cracks and die chips. Running all the way up the T, all the way up the wheat on the right side. That's pretty much what these are. Hey, Pammy Jones. Haven't seen you in a little while. So we do have a special show coming up this next week. This next week on Tuesday at 8 p.m., we're going to be doing Coins and Cocktails. It's going to be where I'm just going to I might even show up early. I don't know. Just sit and have a few drinks and chit-chat, and we will be showing off a few coins, but we'll also be doing some auctioning. And the coins that we're going to auction are going to be chiefly higher value coins. We're going to be doing some 1909S VDBs, a couple of 14Ds, maybe doing some double dies. It's really nice stuff. Hawkeye, am I waiting for a package on you? When did you mail it? I don't remember getting it. All right, here we go. And that show I'm titling Oktoberfest, because we're just about over October, which that's just amazing in itself. It seems like this year went so fast. But then again, some people are glad it's almost over, but I don't think the calendar year 2020 was the problem. This coming Tuesday, it's going to be Tuesday the 27th. Tuesday the 27th of October, 8 p.m. right here on the Copper Coins YouTube channel. There will be a couple of adverts about it, and there will be an email reminder about it a couple of days ahead of time. I've got to work on those coins and get them together. I've got all of the reveals for the last 3 months that I haven't already sent out are now waiting to be sorted by name and placed into packages and mailed. That's some of the work that I've been doing today that caused my tardiness on this show. So that I misunderstood myself in how I scheduled the show. I thought I scheduled this show for 6 p.m. It was actually for 4 p.m. I didn't get started until about 4:20. I am not finding anything of die variety collectible value in here. That's sort of kind of expected, but I mean, 55 doesn't have very many different die varieties, and it is a high mintage year. And why BU rolls cost so much, I think, is mostly because of the possibility of finding double dies in them. It's like 1956, 57, 58 Philadelphia rolls. You can get 56, 57, 58 Philadelphia rolls for $10 or so. 55 Philadelphia rolls end up costing you $50, $60 at the very least, and that's just for tubed rolls. I have a number of tubed rolls. I think I've got 50 or 60 of them. Time Traveler's Coin Exchange, that would be fine. That would be perfectly fine. The only thing is that you have to probably explain to people that the overall navigation of the website is inherently flawed because it was done by a beginner programmer many years ago, and we're working on a new version of it to clean that up. So if people are patient in how they use the website for now, there will be a time when the website will be much easier to use, and navigation, graphics, and everything else will be far better than what we have now. But the more the merrier. If I get people in there using the website, that's awesome. That's great. So I appreciate your offer, and yes, by all means, use the website on video all you like. Now, 2 coins in a row for Shannon McCord, both of them turn out to be just high die aware, decent looking coins. Here's one for Wanda. Milady Wanda. Well, nothing on that side, unfortunately. Every time I see your name, Wanda, it reminds me of that. Well, it's an old movie, but it was a movie from, I don't know, the late 90s. And it was a very strange movie, but it was A Fish Called Wanda. The very first time I saw that movie, I saw it in German. I didn't see it in English. And my first spot through that movie was Ein Fisch namens Wanda, is what they call it. Ein Fisch namens Wanda. I still have a hard time understanding everything about that movie. Maybe I should go back and watch it again. Michael Caine, what a great actor. Wah, 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 Wanda. And I wonder. You got that song, then you got the other song from the 60s. I wonder who. It's wunderbar. Alles ganz wunderbar. That was the first place that I actually kind of thought that I would like to do radio broadcasting. And I wanted to work at a German radio station. It would take a whole lot of extra class in German for me to be able to actually speak German well enough to do jockeying at a radio station. Hello, Carrie. Hawkeye, did you get tracking on that package? If you got tracking on that package, it would be interesting to have the tracking number to see what's happened. If it was a priority package, it would definitely have tracking on it. I had a priority package mailed by a friend in Illinois back on the 21st of September, and it is still not here. It was a 2 to 3 day priority package. It should have been here by the 26th or 27th of September, and here it is, the 22nd of October, and it's still not here. Mail is just horrible. Mail's been taking a month or more at times. It's having a little bit of trouble with the German language in chat here. It's probably because it's trying to spell check you into English. Aber dein Kugelschreiber ist an der Tisch. Wo ist meine Kugelschreiber? And if you end up in the central western part of Germany, they have a slang word for Kugelschreiber because Kugelschreiber is a long word. They call it a Kuli. Wo ist meine Kuli? When you speak German with others, it's not always as Hochdeutsch and proper as you might imagine. There are a lot of other terms used that are a little bit shorter. Okay, Hawkeye, if you have the receipt from the post office and have the tracking number, we can look it up and see what happened. I would be interested to know if it's been delivered, and if it has, where it is. Did you send it to the P.O. Box? I believe you probably sent it to the P.O. box. I've not had a chance to go to the P.O. box in a few days now, so it could be sitting in the P.O. box waiting for me. You're Greek. What Greek? What, did we have a Timothy Morrell question that I didn't see? Oops. Let me do this. To go back and see. You'll open the 120 roll. Oh, 120 rolls. You got 120 rolls from me? That's right. You did. Aha. Trying to watch the conversation and do my thing here at the same time. Yeah. It's kind of like trying to ask me if I can chew gum and walk. No. Not really. And speaking languages I haven't used in 10, 15 years doesn't help any. That's the way to look at it, Tim. There's any good coins in those rolls, they're not going to become not good coins because you're not going through the rolls. And if there's not any good ones in there, they still won't be in there when you go through the roll. So I guess it doesn't really matter when you go through the roll. Yo Man Go. Yo Man Go comes up with the next coin, and it looks like all the rest. That's actually a flake right there. It's starting to peel up. That's a lamination flake. Keep looking around the design to see if I can find anything doubled or anything else to talk about we haven't talked about already in this roll. Ooh, this one's got spots. It's got spots. I don't like spots. Multitasking, not something I do well. And there are a lot of people who claim to do multitasking and they don't do it well either. They just think they do. Wanda. Well, this one's a pretty nice looking coin, except for a couple of spots on it. It's not as completely dye worn out as the other ones that I've seen in this roll. The reverse is, but the obverse was actually pretty nice. We've seen this die a few times. Did have a lot of RPMs. Had a lot of RPMs, and I'm going to show you something when I get finished with this roll. We have other rolls coming up. Wait to the end of the show today, because you're going to see something that's going to amaze you. Amazed. Ooh, that's a big crack. A bunch of cracks there. Right on his head. Looks like Mr. Lincoln got dropped on the head. Mine quit the whole shaking her head thing because more rolls show up. Because, well, she finally realized that this is a viable business. And she has stopped complaining as much. I did have a problem this last week when the post office decided to lose a box for me. They lost a medium flat rate box full of BU wheat rolls that I paid a little better than, well, I paid a lot for them. And they are gone somewhere into the postal realm of abyss, probably sitting in a corner somewhere in the St. Louis sort facility, because that's where they were last scanned, was at the St. Louis sort facility. And I will probably never ever see them. And so I am working on trying to make amends, get them actually paid for, even though I'm never going to see them. So I have to sell something else to pay for those. And it's caused a bit of a backup in things around here. Kind of a constipation of business. This one is an earlier die state. It's actually a late mid-die state coin. Unfortunately, it does not have any of the features that we'd be looking for doubled dies. But Chuck Patillo is actually going to get a pretty nice looking one. Yeah, the USPS insurance is also a little bit of a flaky thing, because if they find out that you're shipping collectibles, they will not pay the insurance on them if you make a claim. So you're kind of, well, screwed if you do, screwed if you don't. Because then you end up paying extra money to ship 1,000 packages to the one package that gets lost, that if you paid insurance on it, it probably would not be covered anyway. So there you go. Yeah, you talk about paying face value for a BU roll of 1943S. Lincoln cents. Well, I tell you what, Mr. Post Office, I'd give you 50 cents for all the rolls you can muster. In fact, I'd even pay him a profit. I might give him $1 for all the rolls of 43S in BU condition they can muster. Yeah, and that's kind of my rule from now on. If I have $100, $200, I can cover on my own. But if I have anything $300 or above, it's going registered. Registered is not cheap, but I cannot afford to lose packages above $300. I can get special level that includes transport and mail. What are you saying, Time Travelers Coin Exchange? Do they have some sort of a deal? Here's number 49. Second to the last is going to Chuck Patillo. $30,000 costs $275 a year. What are we talking about? $30,000. $30,000 in insurance through the post office? I can track the number, Hawkeye, if she just gives it to you so you can give it to me. Just take a picture of the receipt or something like that and just send it to me, and I can track the package. But the first thing is probably that I need to go check my mail. It's probably in my mailbox. There's Kelly Ray. Like I said, it's been, a week ago since I was actually at the post office looking at my P.O. box. because I don't go over there every day. It's a 15-minute drive there and a 15-minute drive home. That's a half an hour of my day that I don't have a lot of time for all the time. I do sometimes. I will this afternoon. I'll go over there, even though it's... Well, no, I'm not going to go over there today because it's already 5:23. They're already closed. If I have a package slip in my box, all I can do is look at the package slip. Nobody's there to give it to me. So I'll have to go tomorrow. Okay, well, that's it for this. That was Kelly Ray. I don't know if I showed the name on that one, but that's Kelly Ray for the 50th coin and the last coin in the roll. Unfortunately, we didn't come up with any die varieties. So I'm going to put these in the pile to be sent out today and tomorrow, because we have nothing to show for in that roll except some interesting, pretty looking coins that were oddly done. Here, let me do it like this. There we go. This is the spoils of 2 rolls. 2 rolls of 1961 D Lincoln cents. These are all sorted by die number. These are all different RPMs. Each of these little stacks, all different RPMs. I don't see. And this is all RPMs that came out of 2 rolls. All RPMs that came out of 2 rolls. Now I'm going to show you a few of these. This is 1961D. So let's take a look at this one. There's one of the RPMs that came out of the roll. Oddly enough, I know the Wechsler number for this, but I don't know the Kaneka number for it. I think it's RPM number 61, but it is definitely WRPM 15 for 1961D. So these definitely come in that roll. Okay, I'll put that one back. Go to the next pile here. Pull one of those off and show it to you. It's another one of the RPMs that came out of this roll. You have that extra lower serif area. Hang on. There you go. It's that extra lower serif area. I have not identified this one yet, but I got out of 2 rolls. It looks like I got 10 of them out of 2 rolls. And here's another one of the RPMs I was getting out of the rolls. This one has an extra lower serif. It's a kind of a fat lower serif area. Okay, there's that one. And then number 4 is this right here. That one's got a upper serif. It's an extra upper and lower serif. So there's that. That's number 4. Here's the 5th different one. There you go. It's RPM number 47. And the 6th different one. Roadrunner, you asking me if these are from Ohio? No, they're not. The 7th different one was the only example I found in the roll, or in the 2 rolls. I found one of these out of 2 rolls. It has a pretty nice lower serif and pretty nice little split upper serif. They're a little bit difficult to see. And I only found 2 of these. This little guy here. Nice little earlier die state with a nice clockwise rotation. And then the last different one, this little guy right here, I'm having trouble picking him up. Got him picked up now. Let's go into the scope and take a look at him. That guy right there has that little point coming up off the top of the D. That's all the different RPMs I found in 2 rolls. 2 rolls. Now, let me grab one of the rolls real quick. Okay, I didn't grab one, I grabbed a few. Move these out of the way. These are some of the rolls from that deal. They're in tubes that you can't get the caps off of. I mean, they're absolutely crushed in there. And most of them have at least one of these different RPMs showing on one or both ends of the rolls. I have a few of these rolls. But the coins are, I mean, they are stuck in there. They're not going anywhere. So I'm going to be doing a reveal on 2 of these rolls at one time. So it's going to be 100 coins that I'll be doing a reveal on. But I first have to go get these coins out of these tubes and get them moved over to the tubes that you can actually open and get the coins out of. How do I open them? With heat. Use a heat gun, and I actually heat the plastic until it expands. When it expands, the coins basically pour right out of the tube. But the heat gun that I'm using is it's a relatively cheap model, but it does the job. No need for hammer and vice grips. Just use a heat gun. A heat gun, you can gently remove the coins out of the tube without screwing anything up. You use your teeth? You mean the ones that were naturally put in your mouth? You got to have the strongest teeth I have ever seen if you're using your teeth to get these apart. These things are hard plastic tubes. They're Megrig tubes. And when they're stored in any kind of heat, they shrink down onto the coins, and you can't move anything in these tubes. I mean, the coins are basically solidified in concrete. The only way to get them out rather easily is to heat the tube. You heat the tube and they'll pour out. A hairdryer will work, but a hairdryer will take about 5 times the amount of time that a heat gun does, and you can get a heat gun at the hardware store for $15. Probably as cheap as a hairdryer. Hang on just a second. Let's see here. I'm going to bring up my other camera so it makes it easier for you guys to see what's going on. Well, do I not have it on here? I guess I don't have it on here. Hang on, let me add it in. Video capture device. Create new. Okay. Here we go. There we go. There I am. Okay. This is the box. It's a 1500 watt. It's got a dual switch on it. This is the actual gun itself. And it's got a high and a low on the switch. And it produces a lot of heat. And when I am doing this, I wear gloves to keep my hands protected. And I'm no closer than this to the actual roll. And I just twist it around, get it warm, get it warm, get it warm. And eventually the cap just pulls right off. And then you get the tube warm, and you kind of bounce it like this. You kind of bounce it like this on your table, like that, and the coins will just fall right out. You use the same heat gun to tint windows? Well, now you know you have the right tool, because this works just fine. Absolutely no problem. I was actually surprised at how well it worked. And I'll tell you what, sometimes those rolls of coins that you get in those tubes, I've gotten some of the most absurdly beautiful coins I've ever seen in my life out of some of those tubes. So those tubes are actually pretty good. Good evening, hidden numismatist. You can get it at Harbor Freight? Okay. I wasn't sure where. I actually bought another one. It was a Ryobi. And I don't like it because it's battery power, and the battery doesn't last nearly as long. And it was very expensive comparatively. It was about $100 for the entire unit. And I decided that wasn't going to work for me, so I'm going to take it back. And then I was talking to my next door neighbor about a heat gun, that I need to go find a good heat gun. He says, well, I've got one right here. And I said, well, can I borrow it and let me use it? And he says, you can have it. I don't need it anymore. So he gave it to me, and I brought it up here and used it, and it's perfect. So, yeah, we didn't find much of anything out of the 1955 roll that we've been going through here. And I have to go fix dinner myself. That's right, free is a good price. It's always a good price. And I have to take off, but here, what I wanted to show you guys these tubes, because this is exactly what I'm going to end up doing a reveal on. And right now they're stuck in there, like they're not wanting to come out at all. I mean, you can't get the caps off of them. And so I'm going to heat gun a couple of these rolls, put them in tubes that I can actually get the coins out of, and we'll do a reveal on that. Available Tuesday during the Coins and Cocktails special auction event, where I'm actually going to have some key date coins. I'm going to have a few toners, not very many. And then I'm going to be putting up a whole bunch of really, really nice early Lincoln cents for sale. Let's see if anybody wants to work with them. But, yeah, I'm going to have to go for now so I can get dinner done. I do believe I have another one scheduled for today. Let me check here real quick and see what I have scheduled for today. Let's see. Man, everything's working really slow for me today. I'm not really sure why. My Chanel. What do I have scheduled? I do have one scheduled at 8 p.m. So I've got reveal number 204, which is a 1960D roll. It's an original machine wrapped roll. We're going to be doing that at 8 p.m. this evening, 8 p.m. Eastern time. And then our next one will be for tomorrow at 7 p.m. So we got this one at 8, and then one tomorrow at 7 p.m., which will finish off the rolls for this week. And that's what I got, folks. And we're done. I got to go do my dinner thing. And I do definitely appreciate you guys coming in today. And just reading the chat to make sure I didn't miss anything before I go. All right, everybody. Peace and love to everybody. I've got to get out of here. I got to be back here in 2.5 hours. 8 p.m. Eastern time. See you there.